Hello and welcome to Freed Indeed Live. I'm your host, Kevin J. N. Hughes. And today for Freed Indeed, I want to talk about why I'm always using the phrase put off and put on. It's a biblical phrase, but I want to talk about what exactly that means. So before I get too far into it, I do want to remind you guys that we always want to remind you guys about supporting the Orthodox Diocese of Alaska. And the reason why oh shoot, come on, just trying to find a Bible verse here, guys. Sorry. So the reason why we talk about supporting the Orthodox Diocese of Alaska by following the link in the description below is that what they're doing right now is building schools in the native languages and having priests for the rural communities. And you might wonder, why Alaska specifically? Well, that's because the Orthodox Diocese of Alaska is actually the oldest Orthodox church in the United States, but due to a lot of factors that you can learn about more about by following that link, it's also one of the most underprivileged. So we here at Freed Indeed Ministries are big believers in striving to live out the faith. And as St. James says, pure and undefiled religion is this, that you would help widows and orphans, and true acts of righteousness are to care for those in need. So caring for those in need, that's what pure and undefiled religion is, according to St. James. And so that's what we're asking you to participate in if you have the resources to do so. Now, without further ado, I want to talk about putting off and putting on. Put off the old man, put on the new. So in Ephesians 4:22-24, we read the following. You know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Ephesians 4:22-24. That you put off concerning your former conduct the old man which grows corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, so that you put on the new man which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. So why am I always bringing up this particular Bible passage? Well, the reason is quite simple. This is the biblical method of changing our lives and changing our sinful dispositions and habits. So the only way that we can change our habits is not just by stopping doing something that's bad, but by actually replacing it with something else. So this is one reason why it's so important. You don't just start believing in Jesus. You don't just stop being an unbeliever. You start going to church. But that's just one very obvious example. In our lives, in our day-to-day lives, we all have continual opportunities to either live righteously or to sin. And each and every moment, we have to make a decision. And so as a result, most of us spend a fair portion of our lives not making the right choices. And in order to change that, in order to start making the right choices consistently, you have to not only put off the old man, but put on the new man in Christ. So you have to not only stop, maybe you have a drinking problem and you drink a lot. You don't just stop drinking, you start doing something else. Maybe you stop going to the place where you used to go drinking and you start going to Bible studies. Maybe, but it doesn't even have to be that. It could just be every time you are thinking about having a drink, instead of having a drink, you go and do 10 push-ups, or go and clean off a table. And this is what I'm talking about when I say putting off and putting on. It's not always going to be some super spiritual activity. Sometimes it's something simple, sometimes it's just something easy, or just something, just something that is productive instead of. So if you struggle with the prawn and you start thinking about it and start wanting to look at the prawn, if you instead take a few minutes to your clean some part of your house, to do some dusting, to do some vacuuming. There's constantly tasks that need to get done in our lives. And chances are, if you're thinking about looking at the prawn or doing drinking or doing any other sinful thing, that means that you have a moment where you could choose to do some sinful thing, or you could choose to do some productive thing. So putting off and putting on is about redirecting your energy into some productive thing instead of some sinful thing. And what you find is that over time, this becomes a habit. So it doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but over time it does become a habit. So now, instead of looking at the prawn and becoming less and less self-controlled and self-disciplined and becoming more and more weak and unmanly, you instead have started doing squats and push-ups every day, and you're getting more muscular, you're building strength. You've started cleaning your workstation more, so now you have a cleaner environment. And all of this has been the result of you giving up the prawn, all of the, or drinking, or whatever the sin may be. And this is how we combat sin, by starting small, because sin starts small. Every sin that we commit starts out as a thought. And if you combat it as a thought, if you stop it there, then it never has a chance to spring up and grow into something that pulls you away from God. And this is why it's so important that we put off our old conduct and put on the new man in Christ. So I know this was a really short episode of Freed Indeed Live, but I think that this is a really essential concept. And so I'm glad that we were able to cover this today. Thank you. And be sure to share this with your friends, especially your friends who are struggling with some pet sin and it feels hopeless, so that they too can be freed indeed. God bless.